The Rough Diamonds. I was deployed for a year, went to a school for 6 months, and then got stationed overseas while the Army denied my family travel because my W and oldest daughter are seeing counselors for depression on a weekly basis. We've now been married for almost 12 years and have 4 kids. Things seemed to get better until my W started getting more and more involved with the local volunteer theater where she lives in the States. She finds happiness in doing theater, so I thought it was an okay thing to support, minus the huge babysitting bills. So, we do argue about money. I've been working on getting the family travel approved and setting up things overseas. In the past 2 months or so, she's had an IA with someone from the theater, and about 3 weeks ago it became a PIA, and she said she doesn't want to come overseas anymore and now wants a divorce. I don't want a divorce. I think her mind is clouded by the OM she says he meets her in, which I obviously can't very well from overseas. I'm fairly helpless over here, but I'm going home for Christmas. I would like to implement Plan A, but there is really no way for me to check on her. She said that she would take a step back from OM a week ago, but I found out she just had lunch with him the other day. She backed off her demand for divorce because of financial reasons. She has mentioned that she wants a divorce, and I can try to impress her by being a good dad to the kids, so maybe she'll like me again and we could get remarried. What am I to do? Can I save this? What am I to do while home? How do I expose the affair to the public? Try to contact the OM's ex-wife maybe. We did POJA for the 1-year deployment and follow-on 6-month school. We also did POJA for the follow-on assignment to Germany. However, the Army messed up the family travel, so I had to get here alone. I've been here for about 9 months by myself trying to get everything squared away. I was making headway too, but now she found someone else and won't complete the necessary forms stateside to get the approval for travel. She loved Germany on my first assignment here and still says she would love to come to Germany again. However, now there is the OM and her other excuses that she doesn't want to move the kids. Time difference makes it hard to talk to the kids daily, but I do get them on the weekends on Skype with video. I try to call home daily, but now she just asks what I want to argue about. A lot of times she won't say anything. How can I work on exposure from here? I told her I'm staying in the house. Didn't say this part, but I'll call the cops to let me in if necessary. I was approved for 2 weeks of leave over Christmas to go home and already have tickets in hand. The thing that sucks about that is that after 2 weeks of seeing the kids and trying to insert myself in her life as much as possible, I'll just leave again. Yes, I'm in the military, but deep inside I'm a softie. I would like for her to tell me she's done with him so I could not go public to the entire town. But she is in a show with him that runs through January. Regardless if the affair is done or not, she would see him during the show. I asked her to account for her time other than the show, and she said that she won't because I wouldn't believe her anyway. She tells me that the affair is not the issue. The issue is my emotional detachment, not enough intimacy, and not enough words of affection. I agree with the latter sentence. Because of my absence, I can't provide those anywhere near enough, but that doesn't justify an affair. I asked her if the affair is stopped or not. She wouldn't answer the question, and after a 20-minute conversation posted as her FB status, I'm a whore and a terrible wife. On my brother's FB she posted, BS wants to let everyone know I had an affair. I thought I was sure of who the OM is, but after the conversation I'm in the dark again. She never did share the name of the OM, so I'm not sure if I figured out the right person. Exposure won't really work unless I have the OM's name right. I hate having to put my kids through this. WW yelled through the house to leave her alone because we're talking about divorce. I asked her straight up and she wouldn't say. I asked her the name I was suspecting and she wouldn't confirm or deny. I didn't tell her the battle plan. She kept asking what I plan on doing. I just told her I want the affair to stop. I just confirmed the OM, so I'm sending FB messages and emails. We'll also call her mom later. Supposedly the kids don't know of the affair, just that mom keeps mentioning divorce on the phone. I'm sure they suspect something. My youngest is uncomfortable mentioning his name to me already. I haven't talked to them about it yet. I was hoping to go home on leave and sit them all down together on the couch and talk to them. Over the phone sucks. After 10 minutes of sending FB messages, I got this: wow, you just ruined any chance of saving our marriage. Plus, he pointed the finger at the wrong person. FB is telling me to slow down, and she just unfriended me. I do have to say that it is very heartbreaking to send all these messages. She said she's done with the marriage and there is no chance to reconcile, only to come right back and say that now I've ruined any chances. We'll definitely contact the theater. People are starting to repost my letter in their FB statuses. Yikes. OMXW is sharing info about the OM. OM parents are not on FB, and WW said she'll have divorce papers ready for me to sign when I come home. Both OM and WW have deleted their FB pages. OM is pleading to his XW that he didn't do anything with WW after he was confronted by XW. WW is adamant that I got the wrong OM, but she admitted to sleeping with OM to other people already. WW called and started reading D papers to me so she can fill them out. I think what threw me off was the if in doubt ask her with the rally eyes. She's confronting people now and telling them to choose sides. That might help or make it worse. She left her sister high and dry at our house and is still not back. She left about 5 p.m. and it's now noon the next day. Should we call the cops? Update: WW is definitely in the withdrawal stage. When I call home, the phone gets handed off to the kids. They are always excited to talk to me, which is good. And she talks positive about me to the kids, at least while I'm on the phone. She said she won't do anything while I'm home. I'll get to run house and kids all by myself. She asked me to stop talking to her friends. I've got a lawyer appointment for while I'm home. I don't want a divorce though. Also have an appointment with her counselor so all three of us sit down and talk. She won't say why she left that night or what she did. Just that she went over to a married couple's house and slept there. I'm trying hard to just show her my love and not dig further, but am I letting her get away with abandoning house and kids? Things are turning for the worse. WW keeps running away. She keeps reading D papers to me, and when I try to counter with loving messages, she either runs or gets really angry. I was rereading some stuff I saw and she threw all my books nearby, to include my Bible, out of the window. She's doing all this with an almost maniacal laugh. I don't want a divorce, but I'm starting to have doubts that it is salvageable. She claims that she only slept with a guy once because she was drunk now. That's also what she tells everyone else. She says I accused the wrong guy and that there really is no affair. Her story contradicts what she said before and what my kids are telling me. She stays out all night and says she won't do anything around the house while I'm there. Whenever she is around, she'll do anything to keep me from trying to talk to her. I was allowing to go to her counseling appointment. I was told that my exposure to all her friends on FB was very wrong by the counselor and kind of equated it to her one-night stand. I've seen those parts of The Exorcist. It's very scary to see that kind of mockery and laughing in real life. She said she'll file for D on Monday. Problem with me getting full custody of the kids is that I'm in the army. The way she's acting right now, I have very little confidence in her ability to take care of the kids after a divorce. But I don't want the kids to be taken away either. This sucks all the way around. She said she'll go see a lawyer to file today. WW is trying to find a way to get $27,000 to pay the lawyer to start filing. She got $500 so far from Christmas presents. I have an attorney. I have not been served. My attorney had me sign the service acknowledgement. I don't think I can deny her a divorce once filed, can I? Once filed, if I don't respond, it becomes default and she gets everything. I can drag it out. She filed in Idaho. I don't have a state since I'm stationed overseas. Attorney is looking at the filed case and trying to figure out property division, visitation, and debt stuff. My comment: wipe her out. She chose affair and she is blaming you. Insanity. Story 2. The chick. About a week ago I found out my wife has been cheating on me. I've had my suspicions for a few weeks now. She has come clean with me on the details. I feel she is still holding some information back. Now she wants to have a divorce. We have been married for 13 years and dated a few years prior to marriage. We have 2 children under the age of 12. I still have feelings for her. I cannot forgive her yet unless I see some major changes. I want us to give a real effort to work things out before we make the decision final. Like many marriages, we've had some ups and downs. However, most our friends would have felt we had a perfect marriage. I know I have not always been the perfect husband, and she has not always been the perfect wife. Prior to this, we always worked things out, but it was always for the short term. I'm hoping the exposure will help us understand truly what we have, and what we need to change to keep it if we don't end up in divorce. Her physical and emotional affair is with a co-worker. I can no longer stand the suffering while she continues to have an emotional affair with him. Her happiness is coming at my expense. Reading the threads here have convinced me that I will need to expose this to her co-workers. My wife has no intention of ending her relationship. I feel that I need to stand up for myself and tell her new boyfriend that they are destroying my family and my marriage, and it's not right and it's not okay. I know I can't make them stop, and I can't make my wife choose me. However, I feel if I don't do this, it will eat away at me for a long time, possibly forever. I have already exposed this to part of her family at her suggestion prior to coming here so I can have someone to talk to. I don't know if the exposure to her co-workers will help end it. However, I feel I will be better off knowing I did what I can and am standing up for myself. I'm putting my plan together for exposure for what I'm learning from here. I don't have a voice confession of her cheating. However, I do have messages from her that state it. So far, we have been very calm in discussing everything because I have chosen not to lose my control. If this turns out to be a divorce, I plan on gaining as much custody of my children as I can. I'm guessing once I expose her, I will see a whole new person from her, as she often screams and yells when upset. We live in California. I know snooping is not legal here, so I have no intentions of snooping through her computer and phone to gain additional evidence. We are also a no-fault state, so even any hard evidence I have would be useless. I've come to the realization that she can never change her ways to be good for me and having a healthy marriage. She has agreed to give me majority custody of the kids, likely much more than a court would award. We are still in talks on how to split the care costs and everything we built together. I realize I will never have a good marriage with her and want to move on with my life. I have been thinking about this divorce for over a year. At this point, it seems like I have lots to lose by exposing. She knows she has wronged me and willing to do what she can to try and right things with me. I don't feel there can ever be a right, but the biggest concern of mine is the kids. It appears to be I have nothing to gain by exposing. Am I being realistic? Liam will not be around my children. The terms will be me having the children 80 to 90% of the time. My wife does not want a long-term relationship with him, and I don't think he wants on with her either. It's a fling for her until she gets bored of it and moves on to her next. While she was with she had also had a one-night stand at a bar. I believe both me and knows that. She's not looking to settle down. She wants freedom to go play. Like a teenager that has discovered boys. She will see the children every other weekend, then bring them back to my home. We agree she will not be introducing to the children unless someday she decides to grow up. We both want what's best for the children, and that is why she is agreeing to the custody agreement. I expect that we will have all this documented and agreed upon in our divorce filing. She will have all the nights and every weekend to go and fulfill her fantasies without the children around. I will be in good communications with the children to ensure she does not stray from our agreement. Ideally, I don't want a divorce. I want a wife that will change her ways and work with me to build a good marriage. During our time together we built many things, but failed to build a great foundation. She was really never up for the commitment. However, the stars aligned for us to be together for a long time. However, I know she is not willing to accomplish this. So, I think it's best for us to divorce and me finding someone that is much more compatible with me. Many of her qualities I found attractive to me are now biting me in the butt. I tried to change her for nearly 2 decades. I've come to the realization that I cannot do that. Nor can I show her that she would like to choose that. The things I want her to change would help us because they are love busters. She's being extremely rude and disrespectful to me. Our counselor has also observed this. She is continuing to be disrespectful to me. One evening she even asked me if it would be okay if I stay home and she goes over to her friend and stay overnight. She is totally set in her way and feels no remorse for what she did. In fact, she has told me that if she had an option to go back and do it all over she would not have changed a thing about cheating on me. I just feel I've put up with the emotional abuse enough and it's time to move on. I'm very glad I found this forum and there's lots here that I will want to apply to my future relationships so I can be successful. Maybe it's easier for others to think about rebuilding a marriage when their significant other is constantly flaunting their new relationships in front of them. But I can't take it anymore and need to remove myself from this bad and unhealthy environment. Actually, she has already told some of her family, and from as far as I can tell it's the truth. I'm just figuring the right way to tell my kids. Her family knows there's nothing they can do to change her mind. They also feel it's in my best interest to take the kids and move on. She does not blame me for the breakup. It's pretty clear to her family. I don't feel she will try that. Why don't I want to expose to her work? It would be a huge financial impact to me and the kids. Right now, she's willing to work with me to make sure I can continue to provide a stable life to the kids. At least that part she's willing to work with. Also, there are at least 2 that I know of. One is the co-worker who is a friend with benefits. He already knows she is going to continue having relations with random strangers and may make more FWB. The second was a random guy she met at a bar. I can tell she is really having a great time and enjoying herself. And she intends on doing much more. She has decided to stop telling me anymore, and I don't want to know anymore. I don't intend to spend my life tracking and following her. She is good looking enough that she gets hit on all the time. She will have no problems getting guys want no strings fun. So, I feel exposing her at work has nothing to gain for me and everything to lose. If you have a different view, please share it with me. I do feel that I will want to push for a no contact with other while the children are with her to be specifically listed in the terms of the custody. I'm planning out my plan B. I don't want to be around her anymore. I'm starting to fear that seeing her or thinking about her will give me a STD. I can't even bring myself to touch her anymore. I forgot to mention, the things I wanted my wife to change are the following. Selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, independent behavior. I believed she could overcome those when I first started dating her and married her. I did see some small changes over the years, which is why I kept trying. However, she's recently had a total reversion, actually probably much worse than I feel she initially was. I'm still not totally sure with my decision. I just don't have the confidence at this moment that exposing would make her want to change those LB. I have considered and want full custody. However, my understand is that is rarely granted from the courts. Is that correct? She is not willing to give full custody, however she's willing to grant pretty close. During her weekends she will only be keeping the kids for the day and they will return to the house with me at night. Yes, I want to limit their exposure to her as much as I can. I'm trying to look into legal details on court decisions of custody and how much proof is needed. I began exposure yesterday. EOM's friends must be talking to him because he told my WW what I did. And she's furious. Is pretty much textbook. We are planning her moving out now. Hope the rest of the textbook is real. This morning she has calmed down a lot. I want her to stay and we work things out. I told her I have a plan for us to get over this. I told her I have a plan so we can build a much better marriage. She is open to listening. I will continue plan. I will need to get her to fully agree to stop the affair and work on a no-contact letter with her. I'm hoping we don't need to move to plan B. She still might want some time and space to herself. But if it is truly herself, then I can live with that. She is still in contact with OM I have not exposed to work yet. I will give them a chance to change their jobs. If they do not do that and stop contact, I will need to move to plan B. I will expose to work. However, that's going to cause huge problems for us as we will likely lose our house without WS income. I decided not to expose to job right. Economic considerations. A divorce, and even separation, can have dire economic consequences for a betrayed spouse. Many wives of cheating husbands that I've counseled are economically dependent on him. If she exposes the affair, she fears that he will leave her, creating financial hardship. So, in those cases, before exposing the affair, I generally encourage her to plan for that possibility. Women's shelters usually offer both legal and financial advice for women who find themselves dependent on irresponsible men. Temporary aid from government, religious, and other charitable agencies can provide a safety net for those women. While exposure usually causes the affair to end, these betrayed women can expose his affair with less fear when they know that separation will not leave them destitute. When there is an affair in the workplace, my general advice is that the unfaithful spouse must quit the job and find another to avoid ever seeing or talking to the lover again. But while the affair is taking place and the unfaithful spouse is unwilling to resign, should a betrayed spouse expose the affair to the employer? While I unhesitatingly recommend exposing the affair to friends, family, clergy, children, and the lover's spouse, I'm not so quick to suggest exposing it to an employer. That's because such exposure could have unintended legal and economic consequences. For example, the affair might constitute grounds for a physical harassment claim by the unfaithful spouse's lover, or it might trigger the outright firing of the spouse, making it far more difficult for them to find another job. So, in those cases, I usually advise the betrayed spouse to warn the unfaithful spouse he or she will expose the affair to the employer in a month if the unfaithful spouse is still working there, giving him or her time to make a graceful exit from the job to another. Even if a new job cannot be found in a month, I recommend waiting no longer to inform the employer, unless the unfaithful spouse has already resigned. I do realize that once she moves out, the possibility we will get back together will drop significantly. If WS does move out and continue to see other people, my possibility of reconciling with WS also drops significantly. If she does move out, I would like her to stay with one of her siblings who are all in favor of us working things out and hopefully keep her in line. I know to continue saving the marriage with WS, I will need her to agree to end all communications with him and have open and transparent honesty. However, there's a high probability she will go back to having random hookups, even if I watch her every move. It would not be hard for her to have a quickie with a stranger if she wants. She would have to put more thought and effort into it. However, if we are at that point, I don't understand that I have a marriage left to save. If WS is not on board of my idea of marriage, then can someone help me understand what I have to save? I do want to plan for a save. I mentioned that during this affair with WS also had a one-night stand. OM is okay with it, which is why I don't see them developing a long-term relationship. This is actually affair number 2 and number 3. Number 1 was a one-time deal and stopped. At the time I did not know about this forum, so I did not follow the guide. I fear ending number 2 starts number 4, number 5, and so on. She did not active seek number 1 and number 2. I'm not sure if number 3 was just a moment of opportunity. She tells me she does not actively seek them out. But guys do hit on her all the time and she's pretty flirty. Moments of opportunity can happen all the time. For example, she could be waiting in line for fast food, and the guy standing behind her or in front might start chatting. That can lead to an opportunity. I'm not saying she will actively go to a bar with the purpose to find a hookup, which I don't think she's ever done. How would you classify this? Prior to the cheating, it was never an issue for her to chat. It was always just that. Now I start to see it as a problem. I'm not sure she has any boundaries. It normally does not happen much when I'm around. It also does not have to be a guy. She's naturally very chatty and friendly. Not number 1 and number 3. She is developing feelings for number 2. Number 2 is the one I exposed. Well, she has finally agreed to stop seeing OM. The affair was ended due to my demand. However, I'm not sure if it was done to stop hurting me. We started reading Surviving an Affair together. I will go over the following with her. Set her down and explain to her that you want to have a romantic, loving, safe marriage and that you won't stay in a loveless marriage. Tell her you are willing to give her an opportunity to earn your forgiveness. In order for the marriage to recover, certain things have to happen. This is what it will take to keep you interested. 1. End all contact with the OM for life. 2. No more nights apart or going out without each other. Create a healthy, integrated lifestyle. 3. Complete transparency, cell phone passwords. 4. No more opposite gender friendships. 5. Complete honesty about her affair, passing a polygraph. However, because of the exposure, she no longer trusts me. She feels information that she gives me is being collected for evidence. I've tried explaining that I've already exposed and done with that. I want to see if we can start a recovery process. How long will it take for her to understand my need for exposure? When we get to that part in the book. However, if WS cannot agree to those, I don't have anything to build a new marriage on, so I have not really lost anything. I realize that if she does not change that philosophy, then I don't have a basis to build a marriage on. I realize you are all trying to help me save my marriage. However, the facts show me that I might not have a marriage to save, which is why I feel I need to also plan for separation and divorce. If we go that route, I will be able to fully grieve and heal once we are finished with our marriage. I exposed to parents and families of all exposed parties. I've exposed to friends of OM. My comment: I cannot believe you are kept her around after multiple affairs. How can you trust and live with someone like this? Story 3. D-Day was in November 2020. I was completely in shock and devastated. My husband and I have been married for almost 32 years. I chose to make the marriage work and went through anger and marriage counseling, which ended up to make things worse than ever. My H lied the whole time about the affair and said it was a co-worker. I thought he had NC, but had I known about this site before, I would have seen by his actions and words that he was still involved. On my own, I decided to follow what seems to be very close to your plan of things seemed to get better, but he was a fence sitter and said he was not in love with me. He offered virtually no information, and what he did answer was all lies. I did not trust 100%, so I continued snooping. At last, I found the whole deal in March in his car, and I was in shock to say the least. I found out that he had been in contact with this girl, who ended up to be only 25 years old, all along. He is 55. He met her while at our vacation home location last summer. He had a separate phone from our family account, a separate bank account with a huge amount of money in it. I take care of all the finances, and I started paying more attention to this. We do not have a problem with money, so my husband was able to pull this off very easily. My problem now is that I should have exposed when I found all this information out. I had the O number, and after about a week I decided to call her in hopes that because she was so young, I could scare her away. She agreed to stop contacting him, but did contact him to tell him what I did. She was deaf, using my husband for financial gain and gifts. There realistically is no future in this relationship, but she had a lot to lose. My husband was mad that I contacted her, but never told me he knew until it finally came out during an argument. As far as I know, it was a PA, but it only happened once. I think she probably only did it then to keep the money coming in. Since then, I went with him to close the bank account, close the prepaid phone, and he gave me back the cash I found. I now make him bring his schedule home from work because I found out he was using those days off to go the 60 miles out of town to see her. I watch our bank account like a hawk and make him send the pay stubs home which he had sent to himself. Things seem good now, and H promises NC, but I am not 100% convinced that NC is in place. I have tried to protect him in the past by not exposing. I know this is not what you suggest, because he has a very prominent job, and he could lose that, and that would hurt me in the end. H and O were both really upset when I contacted her. She texted me back to say she was not contacting him anymore. He says the same, but how can I know that for sure? This is the second offense, and he could be really underground now. He wouldn't dare have anything on the home computer or our family cell phone account. He knows I watch the money, but he can have a lot money put wherever he wants by request. It would be very difficult for me to ever find out anything more for sure. I know he has not had the opportunity to actually see her, but I don't know about secret email accounts. He closed them when I found out, but opened new ones. I have had no proof lately that anything has happened since my big discovery and talk with the O. Just my own doubts from being lied to so much in the past. I think that my contacting her deaf scared them a bit, and at least threw a wrench to the relationship. What I want to know now is this. I feel that if I talk to my husband, and tell him that if I have so much as a tiny doubt that there is contact with her, that I will expose them to the max. I think she would be scared enough to stop if she thought I would contact her parents. I do have the info I need to do that. I believe that this is all it might take to really discourage them just in case there is contact. I hate to rock the boat, because everything is going better than ever now, but I don't know if it's all a sham. I want him to know that just in case he's thinking about it, I will no longer be a doormat anymore. I have thought of hiring someone, but I already know that he is not seeing her. I am just wondering if he is emailing her from work, or has a prepaid phone at work. How would an investigator even find that out? He would not have access to his workplace. When I spoke to the O and texted her before, she said that these threats of mine were not going to fly with her. All I said was that if she did not stop contacting my H, then I would be forced to take another avenue. To me that was contacting her parents, but she does not know that. I don't want to do anything that could get me in trouble, and I am quite sure she would do what she could to stop me. I do not have any physical proof, the phone, anymore because as a good faith gesture when my husband closed his bank account and turned off the phone, I destroyed it. But not until of course I had all the numbers and addresses off of it. What is crossing the line with harassment, and could her parents do something to me? I was not going to sign my name. What is the usual procedure? I need to wait for a couple weeks to expose this. I know that is not what you would all suggest, but I have 2 children taking the most important tests of their lives, medical school boards, that will partially determine their future. They are stressed and deep in study. I cannot possibly add to that stress right now. I do plan, however, when they are done, to immediately move into action. My question is, when this is exposed, do I do that with Plan B in mind, or do I wait to see what WH's reaction is and what he plans on doing? I would not be surprised if he would leave at this point, because he will be so angry. Do I prepare for Plan B in the event he does this? If so, what do I need to do exactly? I am afraid he will immediately start sending pay stubs back to him, and I will be out of the loop once again on financial goings-on. I will only be exposing to her parents, because I do not have any other contacts except for the O address. Also, there is no sense exposing to work. It is not work-related, and besides this happens all the time at work, and no one really cares. The big exposure will be to his 4 siblings. Some are quite religious, and I don't think this will go down so well. I am hoping they will support me on this, as I have always been closing with them, but this is their brother, and I don't know for sure how they will react. I have prepared the letters and emails that I will be sending out. Should I prepare a Plan B letter for H in case he decides to leave? I have put a GPS on the car, and that is how I know all this. As I said in my last statement, I don't know who the boyfriend is if there really is one. I do have the name and address of the parents, and have prepared that to go out. I did not expose yet because I also got the advice since I wasn't sure about contact, to sit back and get the evidence I needed before I made a big mistake with a huge love buster. She is completely private on Facebook, and I don't know how to infiltrate that. I don't know how to make a false account or add a picture in order for her to try and become my friend. A few months later, update. When I found out for the 3rd time in early June that there was still contact, with O, I finally took some action. My exposure list was very limited on O's side as I only had the names and addresses for her parents and her brother. The day before I presented a letter to my WH, I sent out a very detailed letter to both O's parents and brother explaining everything. Remember, she is only 25. I could not find out anything about a boyfriend she claimed to have or his name, and I was never able to infiltrate her Facebook page. I wanted to send the letters out a day prior so they would receive them before my husband got his, and warned her. Upon returning home the next day, I had a letter waiting for my husband explaining that I would no longer put up with this and continue being a doormat. If he did not make the choice to end the relationship right then and make his marriage work, then he needed to leave. I made sure to tell him that I still loved him, and that if he wanted to make the marriage work after the affair was over, I would be there. He was in total shock, because he had no idea that I suspected anything. It was a very rough night after he received that letter. I was not home for a while, because I thought it would be better if I wasn't. I didn't want it to end up being a huge love buster night. He left the house and returned home very late that night, and I thought he may have driven the 60 miles to go see this skank, but the mileage on the car didn't allow for that. My GPS was broken at the time, bad timing, but his story seems to check out that he went to a bar and had dinner, and then went to buy toiletries in case he decided not to return home. He did return home, and I spoke to him the next day at work to ask him if he was coming home. He told me yes. When he was home, I explained that he needed to account for all the money that he had taken out from the ATM the night before. I checked online. He told me it was at work, and I made him drive me into his work to get it. He agreed, and as we approached work, I planned to go in with him to finally make a surprise visit to his office where I have always suspected a prepaid phone was, but he always denied it. When we got there, and I went to go in with him, he stopped me and told me I was not going in. I told him I absolutely was, and he refused to let me. We had an argument all the way home where I vented and I in so many words told him we were through. When we returned home, I continued to rant about everything I had always wanted to say to him but hadn't. Mostly bad, but some good. There seemed to be a point where his body language changed and he looked like he was really listening for the first time. The rest of the night we laid in bed touching but mostly silent. The next morning, I told him if he was coming home that day it would have to be with the phone in hand that he finally admitted to and all the money. He agreed, and he did just that. Since that day, things have been very different. His demeanor has totally changed, fog has lifted, and he seems much more like the husband I previously had, only better. He says there is NC and I am optimistic that this is true. I don't know if she finally gave him the boot after exposure or if he finally had an epiphany, but I don't really care. I am not so stupid, however, not to still have my times of doubt, as I have been in false recovery before and am now paranoid from time to time, but I do see a major change this time. I continue to snoop, GPS, VAR, and check in the cash on hand to make sure his daily money is accounted for. I hate this, but I don't think I will feel totally safe for quite some time if ever. Here are the good signs and changes, and then I would like opinions on whether we should be doing more and if you think we are on the road to recovery. Recently, for our 32nd wedding anniversary, I gave him back his wedding band which he hadn't worn in years. I knew this could be a real sign if we had a chance because he refused to wear it prior to this. He accepted it, and even went with me to have it resized. He wears it proudly and in public. We spend plenty of UA time and meeting each other's needs. He is showing me so much affection now that I had been practically begging for. My number one need. We are back in the same bedroom, and I am meeting his number one need of SF. He forwards me all emails about meetings, so I know they are legitimate. He makes copies of his schedule so that I know his days off and hours. All his time is accounted for. GPS finds nothing unusual. He comes right home from work now. He does not keep his phone secret, which has his work emails in as well. Pay stubs come home, and every penny is accounted for. Best of all, he seems much more genuinely sorry and humble. He seems very happy. We spend hours of recreation time together, and even dance to music alone in the dark sometimes before bed. He has been very reluctant to tell me everything up until this point. It had to come out as I found out on my own. To be honest though, I have not even pushed the subject for any more details since I gave him this final letter. He may tell me no, I don't know, but I'm not even sure whether I care anymore to know every detail. I just wondered in the event that I wanted to question him anymore on anything whether it was a good idea or not. Maybe I will just let well enough alone now. My comment: I hope your R is turning out better than some couples we see here.